Hello, my name is Debbie Jacobs. Happy Sunday. And I wanted to do a video discussing mental illness. Now, let me tell you something. I had a diagnosis of depression, anxiety, and bipolar that I lived most of my life, most of my adult life, I should say. I wasn't diagnosed until my late 20s, early 30s, but we all know that it starts way before that. It is a culmination of our life experiences and having ineffective coping skills and negative thinking that we learn in childhood when we develop our beliefs and our behaviors. And our behaviors are actually formed out of our experiences. So when I was a little girl, I was shy. But I was shy because of my circumstances, not because I had a gene that was like, okay, Debbie gets the shyness gene. Why would I have a gene of being shy when that doesn't serve me? Like, why would I have a gene, being insecure? But those are actually behaviors, reactionary behaviors that I developed over the course of my experience, during my development. So, I was shy for the wrong reasons. And instead of my parents correcting it and saying, don't be shy, Debbie, be comfortable, be confident, be yourself, I ended up going to shyness as a coping skill. That was a place of comfort for me, and I would be shy and withdrawn and pull back and not talk to people and stuff like that. And that's how I perpetuated in my childhood, and I developed the behavior of being shy that I lived with all my life in my depression, anxiety, and bipolar until my healing when I focused on getting rid of what doesn't serve me, getting rid of my insecurity, my anxiety, my worry, fear, all these behaviors that developed organically out of my experience through model behavior, through the interaction, between me and my siblings, the dynamic between me and my parents, the position that I held, within the group of my friends, the position that I held within the group of my family. I developed an inferiority complex because of that, not because I was born to have an inferiority complex. How would God know to give me that gene if he didn't know what my situation was going to be, my path, my childhood? We are not born with predetermined personality traits. They are cultivated, organically. I don't want to say authentically, although in a sense it is authentic, but that is not authentic to our beautiful authentic self. That is authentic to our hurt self. So that's why I say it's more like an organic, outcome. Kind of like how, parents, program the mind. That's not predetermined. That's over the course of children's development. And when parents give criticism, they program an inner critic. So that comes from our environment, our experience, our circumstances, exterior to our being, right? So there actually is nothing wrong with the mind, with the brain. There's nothing wrong with the brain. And it has been proven. I myself have posted this because I posted about, depression, anxiety, the mind, thinking, all of these, behaviors, coping skills, abuse, childhood, parenting, and I have posted 6 times that, it was documented that there is actually nothing wrong with the mind. And the whole chemical imbalance has been debunked, but I will tell you that it's been debunked for the wrong reason. What they found was that it was really unsubstantiated, but the actual reason, that the chemical imbalance is not the root of depression, anxiety, mental illness, is because there is no such thing as a chemical imbalance. And that goes to show that there's nothing wrong with the mind. The problem with the chemical imbalance is associated by low serotonin levels. Now, of course, in the development of this process and analyzing my thoughts and everything, to me, it's very obvious. Low serotonin levels come from negative thoughts, not depression. Low serotonin levels are created by negative thoughts because what do negative thoughts do? They make us feel bad about ourselves. They put us down. They say, "Oh my God, I want to kill myself. My life is so terrible. I'm such a loser. Nobody likes me. Oh my God." They make us feel bad. And are we going to have healthy serotonin levels when we have negative thoughts putting us down? No, we are not going to release into the brain neurotransmitters that make us feel good when in fact our thinking itself is making us feel bad and is reflective of the mind working correctly. The mind, has negative thoughts perpetuating the neurotransmitters, and that's creating low serotonin. That makes sense. That is as it should be. And when we change our thinking to positive thinking, now we're going to be creating, healthy levels of serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin, all the feel good, chemicals. So are they saying that mental illness is negative thinking and negative ineffective coping skills and low self esteem? Is that mental illness? Us? Us being ourselves? Yes, we have pain. We have pain. We have the emotional wound. We have the wounded inner child. Yes, we have negative thoughts. Negative thoughts is the problem. And yes, we are reactionary, but that stems from our pain. We have flaws. And let me tell you something, people that have depression, anxiety, and bipolar were not treated, with kindness. Did not grow up in an environment that was safe. There's a very high incidence of abuse in mental illness. Why don't they make that be the cause for mental illness? And it is. Children cannot deal with punishment. Children that had no coping skills, no defense mechanisms, they don't have the power or even their own personal power to defend themselves against invalidation, negativity. They get filled up with negativity and invalidation for life. Now, I just want to preface this that, I speak to primarily depression, anxiety, and bipolar. I live with that most of my adult life. I don't know about schizophrenia because, it all depends on the severity, and it does get to a point where there is damage to the brain. But that is and I have spoken to people that have had schizophrenia, and I've seen it reflected in their thinking. But I believe that if they have the commitment and the determination and they can, accomplish going through the process of changing their thoughts, then they can have their freedom and happiness. Because depression, anxiety, any mental illness does not exist in positive thoughts, positive effective coping skills, and healthy self esteem. That is our authentic self. But I think that what really does damage is actually the diagnosis. Powerful. When I got diagnosed bipolar, I was like, oh my god, like I couldn't even like, it was like somebody like punched me in the stomach or something. I was like, oh my god, like I couldn't like, it was like this very hard pill to swallow, and it was. And I went through mania and all of the challenges, medication, therapy, different programs, hospitalization. But let me tell you something. I never tried to change my behavior before, before doing all that. And I really think that mental therapy needs to change their whole treatment. Psychoanalysis makes things worse, not better. It doesn't. Because, you don't want to stir the pain, you want to let it go. Doesn't matter, let it go immediately, dump it, get rid of it, get rid of everything so we can focus on creating new and your future, not your past. I have my sister, goes to therapy 3 times a week. And she was like, talking one day. She's like, yeah, when I was in fourth grade, this happened. I'm like, why are you like 30 years old talking about being in fourth grade when you're 12? What are you doing? What are they doing? You know what I mean? And I personally myself, I didn't hit the jackpot. I never had a good therapist. I had a couple of great psychiatrists, but the therapists, like, I got nothing out of nothing. It to me, it's like stirring peas on a plate, going nowhere. Because we can talk, 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 and everybody has their own different opinions. But it gets to a point where healing is work. It's transformation, and it is a process. It's not counseling on your day to day. It doesn't matter. I mean, it does. You use your day to day to make positive change, but it's not perpetuating or validating somebody's experience when they are not operating in their highest good. We have to stop operating in ways that don't serve us and start operating in ways that serve our highest good. And that's by changing our thoughts and changing our ineffective coping skills. And let me tell you something. When I went through the process, my own healing, well, where's the mental illness? Like I was able to make any change that I wanted to make. I was, a challenge to accomplish it, but my mind said, go for it. My mind didn't say, no, you can't because you have mental illness or you have a chemical imbalance or have inflammation or whatever crap they say. They don't know because there's nothing wrong with the brain. Depression, anxiety, and bipolar was caused by abuse, the emotional wound, ineffective coping skills that developed over the course of my development in my childhood, where punishment was a standard of practice. Who would ever think it's a good idea to hit a child? That's negative thinking, not positive thinking. Because a positive thinker is like, oh my God, no, don't do that. That's terrible. We must stop it immediately. You know what I mean? And I got to also say that, like, the mind, when you think about, the resilience of the human body, you know, like if abuse was to break our mind, then why wouldn't it not puncture or collapse our lungs, break all our bones? And I know, like, abuse can break bones, but it's still, the bone was able to heal and go back to the sturdiness. And I'm sure through from abuse, in some ways it's not easy to break a bone. You know what I mean? Because we have, I think the body is meant to be durable, but when we're adults now, like, you do not rough up a child. You do not be aggressive with a child. And if you're being aggressive, you gotta stop yourself. You gotta know where to draw the line, and the line is you stay assertive. You do not cross over to being aggressive. Don't be aggressive. And if you find yourself being aggressive, say, hey, you know what? I need to figure out a way to handle the situation where I'm not aggressive. And how can I accomplish that? For the betterment and the safety of my child. Because, people have the belief that something is wrong with them, that they're mentally ill, that they can't be better, that they have a permanent incurable disease. And I'm like, how do people, let me just tell you, when I got diagnosed with bipolar, that to me was like, okay, wait a second. I went through a pretty, difficult path, and I ended up with bipolar. Even in my unconsciousness, that was not lost on me. That was not lost on me. I had abuse in my household. I had abuse from my siblings. I had, like inferiority, and I wasn't perpetuating effective ways of being. So I had a lot of upset because I had shyness and insecurity and anxiety. I had a lot of fear, guilt and shame, feeling bad about myself, thinking nobody's going to like me, you know. That has nothing to do with mental illness and has everything to do with my programming and what came up authentically out of my experience. Because if you don't, if you say mean things to a child, they're going to think people that something's wrong with them and people aren't going to like them. That's not mental illness. That's flaws. And are we diagnosing people for life with mental illness when they're just flawed? And everybody is flawed. Everybody has negative thoughts, negative, ineffective coping skills, and low self-esteem, regardless of where you fall, on the spectrum of negative thinking. Because everybody is a negative thinker, even the most positive person, because they still have their flaws, and with their flaws, they haven't accomplished, healthy self-esteem. They need to get rid of their flaws, and their negative thinking to accomplish positive thoughts, positive, effective coping skills, and healthy self esteem are authentic self. So sometimes I feel like saying, well, I have good news and I have bad news. Either everybody is mentally ill or nobody is mentally ill. But everybody has negative thoughts, negative, ineffective coping skills, and low self esteem. And that goes for prison, addiction, suicide, self harm, corruption, like across the board. That we are living in an ego world, and everything that is in it is an outcome. Homelessness, obviously mental illness, sex trafficking, all these prisons, and Donald Trump, and everything is what developed out of the foundation of negative thinking, negative ineffective coping skills, and low self-esteem, which is the ego self, and, in my opinion, also the narcissist self, the narcissist parent. But children are born their beautiful, authentic self without mental illness. Mental illness is developed out of our experience. And let me tell you something, we cannot be hard on children. And what do I see? I just saw a father who got praised, Father of the Year. Their child will thank them. They're a hero. And they made their 10-year-old daughter walk 5 miles in the cold in 36-degree weather, a 10-year-old, because she was bullying on the bus. And and the father's like, there's no bullying in my household. And he is a million times worse than this 10-year-old. And where did she learn it from? And that's mental illness in the making. Parents cannot treat children like that. They are human beings, and they need to be treated with love and validation for their happiness, not for mental illness. We need to stop with this negativity. It's horrible. It's like I saw another video where a father shaved his son's head to halfway so he looked like an old man because he didn't do good in school. Like, what the hell? I never saw that in my childhood. Parents have to be better, not worse. And mental illness is increasing in our youth. So what is the problem, the brain, or is the problem parenting practices? And we need positive change across the board in parenting practices to stop the development of mental illness, in mental therapy to get people out of their mental illness. And is it mental illness? No, it's not. It's flaws. And let me tell you something. I had major, major anger issues. Major. Was I born to have anger issues? Do I have them now? Not at all. And somebody said to me, God, I can't imagine you getting angry. I said, thank you. I said, oh my God, that really, like that was a validation to my own healing, And then people used to also say to me, oh, you look so mean. Why do you look angry? Why don't you smile? Like strangers on the street would see me and say that. And I'm like, who are you? Like why I don't like people coming up to me and talking to me, especially saying that. I was actually very sensitive to that because I took it as an insult. I'm not going for the look of anger, you know what I mean? I'm just sitting here being myself and people be like, why do you look so angry? Now people say, I like your energy. You're so positive. I'm like, oh my God, if people knew, because people don't really know. Um, because people only know what they see today, but they don't know how I was 10 years ago in my pain, in my anger, blowing up at people. My boss used to send me home and say, take a vacation day. I would have a tantrum in the office. I got lucky that she, still valued my contribution and didn't fire me. But now, and I operate differently. And guess what? I healed myself of depression, anxiety, and bipolar. It can be done. And I haven't had mania. I don't have anxiety. I don't have depression. You can't have, um, if I don't have depression, I don't have depression because I had a separate diagnosis of depression, and then later I got diagnosed as bipolar, but it's also a component of depression. So I don't have bipolar, and I am living in my authentic self with positive thoughts, positive effective coping skills, and healthy self-esteem. There's nothing wrong with my mind. My mind, is able to accomplish the transformation of self and reprogramming and changing my negative conditioning to positive conditioning. I did it. That means it can be done. It doesn't mean that I could do it. It means that the human being can do it because I have a human brain, not a Debbie Jacobs brain. And I am working Sunday, my day off. I am working to bring positive change to people living in their pain for their freedom and happiness. My name is Debbie Jacobs. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next.